Today, let's learn how to clean your side feed airbrush. Cleaning your airbrush is the most important thing about airbrushing, even more so than actually painting. It's a good practice to perform this cleaning process, whether for a color change or a final clean. The first thing is to get all the paint out of the airbrush as quickly as possible by a pre-rinse and using a cleaning brush to swipe away any paint. You should never let any paint dry inside of the cup or airbrush. Next, this airbrush comes with a crown cap. Go ahead and unscrew that so you have access to this tip. Now submerge the entire airbrush underwater and flush and back flush out like so. I like to use a bucket to minimize any overspray that might be in the air. And you're going to do this 10 to 20 times by plugging and unplugging with your finger. This agitates any paint out of the airbrush body. Now, take out the cup, and underwater you can spray in here. And continue flushing and back flushing. Now we can go ahead and put the cup back in, spray out on a clean towel. Check out if there's any pigment still in the airbrush. Looks good, but you may need to repeat the flushing and back flushing if necessary. Now, note that you may still have paint on the needle and inside the airbrush here, and you may need to pull the needle out to clear the paint from the needle and needle housing. Insert the needle back there. Next, go ahead and add a few drops of airbrush cleaner. And you can move the trigger back and forth just to let the airbrush cleaner do its work and wipe away any stubborn pigment that still might be in the brush. Go ahead and spray that out underwater. Put back on the crown cap. And finally, just some fresh clean water to clean away any airbrush cleaner. Do your test. Everything looks good. Now, if you can perform this cleaning of the airbrush like a pro, you may never have to disassemble the airbrush ever, and you will practically have no problem spraying with it every time. In the event your airbrush requires a deep cleaning, this may involve disassembly of the airbrush and cleaning of the individual parts. If there's any paint dried in the airbrush, let some airbrush cleaner sit in the brush overnight or longer to eat away and loosen any dried paint. Note that you should never scratch, scrub, pick, or dig anything out of the airbrush, as you may ultimately damage your airbrush. Let the cleaner do its job by loosening it first. Using any abrasive actions is harmful to the integrity of the components and may require that you purchase any parts for it or purchasing a new airbrush completely. Now it's time to disassemble the airbrush. I always start from the back to front and place them down in order that I take them. Remove the needle chucking nut. Take out the needle. Take off the needle chucking guide completely. Remove the spring. Remove the needle guide. Go ahead and pull the trigger off. Now the trigger has a piston connected to it. And inside here, go ahead and take out the auxiliary lever. There's a lot of parts here, so you can follow along on your airbrush parts guide. Next, take off this crown cap. Take off the needle cap. Take off the air cap. Remove the cup. And this is a side feed feature, which is the side feed plug, which allows you to switch your cup from left-hander to a right-hander. Set that down. Now you can, with your fingers, this little small part here is the air nozzle. Go ahead and remove that. And a majority of the cleaning that you're going to be doing is within the airbrush body here, this housing here, and the fluid nozzle. So to start, go ahead and put your needle in there. And I'm not using the needle to scratch or pick or scrub anything. We're just kind of loosening any paint out. And next, we're going to take our airbrush cleaning brushes. I like to use this as it's a fast and safe way to clean your airbrush. Now we're going to scrub away any paint inside of here. Be careful not to scratch any parts in the inside of the airbrush. And we're going to scrub inside of here. Next, there may be paint stuck in here. Everything looks good. Let's go ahead and reassemble our airbrush. So we're going to start by screwing the air cap back on and carefully screwing this little fluid nozzle back on. Only screw this on hand tight, not too tight. Next is your needle cap. Replace the crown cap. Go ahead and put your cup back on, whether you're a left-hander or right-hander. Put the side feed plug in. This is a little tricky part. This auxiliary lever kind of looks like a cowboy. You want to put this in with the head facing up and the S curve facing back towards the airbrush, like so. This is another little tricky part. You're going to try to maneuver this little piston into the air valve spring guide here. It can be a little tricky, just be patient, and when you can push down, you know it's in. Now go ahead and reset this back all the way to hold that auxiliary lever in. Insert the spring guide and needle guide. Put your spring on. Screw in the spring guide. All the way, and now what I like to do is loosen it just a half turn. Put your needle chucking nut on, and very carefully, without bending the needle, insert the needle back in the airbrush. Tighten that needle chucking nut. Put your handle back on, and you're ready to spray. For more cleaning products, go to tcpglobal.com or usartsupply.com. Happy spraying!